you also didn't, I guess we're clear though that you read the entirety of the packet, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that means you read all the interviews with Mr. Percy, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you also read all the interviews with Sue Novak, right?
Yes.
Okay, and did you compare those statements in any time?
I don't remember.
Okay. Guess we'll move on to a slightly different topic here. Uh, there was an IRT
Are we still
meeting.
sharing?
No, thank you, Judge. An IRT meeting for Sue Novak, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you led that meeting, in fact, right?
I don't know that I led it, but I certainly was a part of it.
Okay. Who was who above you at that who at that meeting outranked you at the department?
I don't remember who was in that meeting outside
Okay.
of HR.
So and nobody at HR would have outranked you, right?
I'm going to object to relevance.
I'm not sure what you mean by this, but she says she
Okay.
doesn't believe you. Do you just want to know who's in the meeting?
I want to know who was in charge, who ran that meeting.
Do you recall who ran the meeting?
I do not recall who ran that meeting.
Okay. What positions were in that IRT meeting, if you know?
I only remember what was typical practice, which was the employee relations specialist. I don't remember if legal counsel was involved in IRTs or if it was just the darts. And the HR coordinator, I believe.
Okay. And are you aware or unaware of who is the highest person in the DOC hierarchy in that list?
Well, HR didn't report to the Secretary of the Department of Corrections. They actually reported to the Secretary of the Department, well, reported up through the ranks to the Secretary of the Department of Administration. So they were not in the DOC hierarchy, if you will.
Okay. I got it. So after the IRT meeting, there is well, let's call for Sue Novak's meeting. Do you recall whether or not Christine Preston was at that meeting?
I don't.
Okay. At that meeting, do you recall if the subject of the status of the fence was discussed at any time?
I don't remember.
How about Doug Percy?
I don't remember.
How about Holly Zimdahl?
I don't remember.
Okay. And so, are you clear on what the purpose of the IRT meeting is?
Yes,
What is the purpose?
it's to review an investigation and determine if there are any potential work rule violations and whether or not there's enough to go into a pre-disciplinary hearing.
Okay. And are you aware of whether or not Sue Novak had a pre-disciplinary hearing?
She did.
Okay. So in order for that to happen, what needs to happen at an IRT meeting for someone to have a pre-disciplinary meeting, if you know?
There is typically a discussion related to the summary or the allegations and a determination if there are work rules that were potentially violated. And then that provides us notice, or we then would provide notice to the employee under investigation so that they have an opportunity to review the work rule violations that they're being alleged of potentially violating and provide a response to that, and also provide any mitigating information that they may have.
Right. Okay. So before the Louder-Miller pre-disciplinary hearing, you have to decide. I guess can you have a pre-disciplinary hearing if you think the work rule violations are hogwash?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You cut out. Could you repeat your question?
Sure. Let's say in the course of an IRT meeting, you find that there is no work rule, there are no work rule violations. What happens then?
We would remove them.
Okay. And in this case, because it's a warden, who's making that decision?
I think it's a collective decision at the
Is the,
IRT.
is the secretary participating in that decision?
No,
Okay. So this is a decision that you're actually making on your own authority?
Objection mischaracterizes the testimony.
Christine, she didn't actually say who does make the decision.
Oh, okay. So how, let's be clear. Is there a vote taken at this meeting?
there's no vote.
No. Okay. So, um, how then is it determined what action to take after this meeting?
We review the investigation. We determine if there's any evidence to support a potential work rule violation, and that is what is put forward. If there is no evidence of any work of a specific work rule violation, then that would be removed. But if there's any evidence, that could be put forward and then provided notice to the employee.
So the standard is any evidence at all. Is that right?
I don't know that that's the standard, but I would just say evidence in general.
Okay. So if you don't have a vote, is there a show of hands?
No, it's a discussion and we have a consensus as to what's appropriate to move forward and what's not.
Okay. And somebody in that meeting has employment power over other people in that meeting, right?
I don't think I understand what you mean by that.
Okay. Well, for example, let's say you disagree with the decision that the secretary makes. What are your options?
If I disagree with what the secretary isn't at the IRT.
Great. I'll keep that in mind for future reference. Can you answer that question, please?
If I disagree with what the secretary says,
Right.
what occurs?
Right.
A
Like
decision
after
is
the
made.
IRT meeting? Is that what
At
you're
any
saying?
time in your whole existence as administrator.
The secretary and I disagreed on a number of occasions, and
Great.
the decisions that were made sometimes were in my favor and sometimes were in his. I don't know that there was always the same outcome anytime we had a disagreement.
Great. Did you have a vote
On what?
on who would win, you or the secretary?
No.
No. Okay, so who won?
I'm going to object to relevance here and lack of specificity. We just seem to
She's
be.
pretending like she doesn't know what employment power is, so we're gonna have to take our time with this one.
No, I don't see so. That she was saying, you were talking about the IRT meeting, and she said that the other people she remembers being in the meeting are from HR, and those people all report to DOA, and she's not responsible for, employees who work for the Department of Administration.
Okay.
So she's not their
Again,
superior.
but there's also a lawyer there, right?
She said she didn't know. She said maybe, or that might only be at the next start stage, I think she said.
Okay, so let's go through that analysis. Let's say you and HR disagree. Okay, in the IRT meeting, who wins?
I'm going to object to relevance.
What is going on, Mr. Cross?
All I'm trying to figure out is who's making the decision at the IRT meeting. To say that it's a collaboration doesn't make any sense in the context of a quasi-military organization here. It's very clear that if the secretary and her disagree, that's not a collaborative process. The secretary is the one making the decision.
Well,
It's the
she
same
said that
thing-
he sometimes goes along with her recommendation, even though that wasn't his decision, the thing he
Okay.
wanted to do. So
Right, but so that's right. That's in his decision. It's not her decision whether or not he goes along with her decision. It's his decision only. That's how employment power works.
let's put it in the context of a particular decision that we're looking at, because I don't want to waste time on generalities. We've already done lots of that.
Great. Let's say Bonnie Peterson was in the meeting.
Who's Bonnie Peterson?
I'm sorry, the head of HR,
Okay.
Christy. I'm just never gonna get that name right. I'm sorry, everybody. The
Preston,
head of HR is in this meeting, okay? And let's say she says, I think that there are no work rule violations. Let's just say we can't get Sue Novak for this fence because this fence issue has been going back since 1986, okay? But you say, I really want to get Sue Novak for this fence. What is the result at the IRT meeting?
We would typically have discussions about why one of us was feeling strongly about one way or the other. We had a very collaborative and collegial relationship. I had specifically worked in HR on the other side of this. So my experience had always been that it was done by consensus, and it wasn't that any one person made a decision. We made the decision collectively.
Okay. Now, let's say that's one of the problems here is because we're talking about in a situation where there is not a consensus. And you described to us situations in which you and the secretary did not reach consensus, right?
I thought we were talking about the decision with respect to Ms. Novak, and that's what I want
We're
to talk
also
about.
talking about that one, but she's pretending like employment power doesn't go throughout.
No, I'm done. We're not talking about, let's talk about Ms. Novak.
All
We've
right.
gone over and over this, and she said she's told you her answer. You don't like it, but that's it. Let's move on.
Okay. So, let's talk about the IRT. After the IRT happens, there are the work rule violations are put to the employee. Is that right?
I'm sorry, you cut out again. Can you repeat your
Sure.
question?
After an IRT meeting, the alleged work rule violations are put to the employee, right?
Do you mean provided to the employee?
Whatever you want to say, provided, put to, whatever.
Yes, we provide the employee with the potential work rule violations that they're being alleged.
Okay. And then at that point, the employee gets I'm going to call it a loudermilk statement, but I think you call it pre-disciplinary statement, something along those lines.
The notice is the pre-disciplinary notice with the work rule violations.
Right, but the employee gets to say, pretty please don't fire me, right?
We have what's called a pre-disciplinary hearing, and they have an opportunity to make statements in response to the alleged violations.
Okay, are those statements given to the decision maker or something else?
Those statements are given to a number of people who have decision-making authority.
Okay, who gets the statements?
The entire packet is typically routed to the employment relations specialist, to from what I remember, it would go to the DART first, if I recall correctly. And the DART was the disciplinary action review team. And then that would then go to a number of people for input as to whether or not discipline was appropriate or what level of discipline was appropriate.
Okay. Does the secretary read that document?
Does the secretary read the pre-disciplinary statement?
Yes.
I can't speak for what he reads.
Okay. How about in the Sue Novak case? Did you discuss the pre-disciplinary statement with the secretary?
She retired right at the end of her pre-disciplinary hearing. So that was what I let the secretary know about, is that she retired at the end of the pre-disciplinary hearing.
Okay. So generally, though, does the secretary read the pre-disciplinary statement?
I'm going to object to speculation, and it's not relevant. Judge, and I don't mean to interrupt Attorney Cross here, but it is 5 o'clock. Like him, I really need to wrap this up soon, so maybe we can just think about that.
Okay, Mr. Kraus,
I'm ready to pause. No problem. Let's
are
pause.
you done with Miss?
No,
Miss,
absolutely not.
How long are you gonna go more?
I got hours, couple of hours.
A couple of hours? I can't imagine what else more you can say. We've covered everything.
I appreciate that.
Do you really have a couple of hours?
I mean, I wouldn't say at the most, yeah, I would say that. I'm not prepared to go on to any six, and it's definitely going to be, I'm going to be here for longer than an hour. He's going to have cross-examination, and believe me, I'm going to have way more after that. So, yeah,
All right, well, then apparently we're not going to get done with Ms. Fezahaya, and I appreciate your time today, Ms. Fezahaya, and we will be rescheduling
you.
this. And please do not discuss your testimony with anyone else, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, enjoy your vacation. It's probably much nicer weather there than it is here. All right, have a good
Thanks.
day. I'll help you
Bye.
leave. Thanks. All right, so I take it you both want to leave now, or do you want to try to reschedule this right now? Look at my
let's
calendar.
reschedule it right now if we can. Few minutes.
You-
I'm already in the doghouse, Mr. Mullenbach. Can't get any worse.
I'm sorry, my speaker just cut out for a minute there. I didn't hear what you said.
I'm saying I'm already in the doghouse, but if we can, the best thing in my opinion is to get a date now. Are you in a position to do that?
Well, I'm not because I was expecting this hearing to go for 3 days, so I have no idea when any of these witnesses are available after today. So I'm going to need to contact them.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody's been removed from the witness list. So according to the witness lists that have been provided, there's 31 people I need to get in contact with and juggle their schedules. So I can't commit to a date right now.
Are you planning to call a lot of other people, Mr.?
No, just
Cross?
the complainant. Just the
So
complainant.
just
Okay,
finish
so
Ms.
it's only those
Fezahaya,
two?
then the complainant?
Okay. Well, that
With small
that
chance,
definitely makes
Mr.
it easier.
Sonnenberg. Small chance, Mr. Sonnenberg, but that's my understanding is we'll finish this up and then we'll go to complainant. We're done.
How long do you think Ms. Novak's going to take?
3, 4. I don't know about the cross, but
Hours, I hope, not days.
yeah, hours.
And, all right, so, and so if you can look into schedules, please. You know, I don't know, you're gonna have to get back to me because I don't know what you're looking at. I could possibly do, let's see, so I can do another couple of days. Is there a time? How many days are you thinking you need? Mr. Cross, what you're saying is hour and a
Yeah, I
half, a
get
day and a
that. I
half?
get that. I get that. And I was, no. I mean, I'm thinking a half a day total for me. I mean, I guess for, if we started at 9, I guess maybe to 1 on one day, leaving. I don't know if that, 1 to whatever is going to be enough for Mr. Mullenbach.
Well, he's had a lot of his witnesses testify by,
Right. I'm sure I get nobody wants to pin you down to anything, Mr. Mullenbach, right now. I do not want to be unfair to you. But the real
well, I'd
question
like to
is,
have some, I can't give you times that I'm gonna be available if I don't have some idea of how long you need, because
right, 2 or 3 days is kind of the ballpark, I think, right?
Yeah, Judge, just to be blunt, I have 6 more witnesses that I intend to call. Most of those witnesses are going to be very short, and I don't think any cross examination would be overly lengthy for them either. That being said, there's at least 2 that probably will be somewhat lengthy. So I would say 3 days is probably appropriate if because that only leaves me 1.5 days. So yeah, I think 3 days would definitely be appropriate here.
all right, well, then I could do the week of the 24th
Of
of
April.
April. I don't think I can do anything not for 3 days before that.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good, Mr. Mullenbach. You have no idea.
And let me see. I was planning a vacation that I'm not gonna take, so I could also do the week of May 1st.
So that April week looks good for the 24th, 25th through 26th, right? That looks good for me.
Or, I mean, I don't, what about the 27th and 28th? I mean, I don't know what his witnesses are gonna be available, so
Oh,
it might be
okay,
26th,
fair
27th,
enough.
28th.
So 27th, that also looks okay. And 20, I'm shockingly free all that week.
Okay, and then the following week, again, because I was gonna go on a vacation that I'm not going on now, May 1st through the May 5th.
Yeah, that week is not as doable. I could do the Thursday, Friday on that week, if needed, but it's the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is pretty bad.
Okay, well, then I say we shoot for that week of the 24th. See what you can do, Mr. Mullenbach.
I will do
Okay.
that. Yes.
Okay, well, thank you both very much. We put in a lot of good work. I hope you will continue that because I really don't want to schedule this again. We really need to get done. All right, thank you and have a
Judge,
good day.
I think you want to, can we email you on this issue? On the
What?
rescheduling? Can we email you about the rescheduling?
Yes, you can email me. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Have a good
That means she
day
doesn't want any fights, Mr. Mullenbach.
and be safe. Be
Yeah,
safe in
okay.
this
I got
weather.
that one.
All
All
right,
right,
take
have a
care.
good time
Thank
at
you.
at your daughter's birthday. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Have a
Happy
good day.
All
We'll
right.
stop
Bye-bye.
recording. Bye.